Some countries are on the brink of financial disaster. Hyperinflation, collapsing industries, and unsustainable debt are pushing these nations toward economic ruin. You might think it's just struggling economies, but even countries with once booming industries are now in serious trouble. Global economic instability, political mismanagement, and skyrocketing debt have created the perfect storm. While some nations struggle with external shocks, others have been crumbling from the inside for years. Today, we'll explore 10 countries that could be financially doomed in 2025. Some of these might surprise you. 10. Argentina. Argentina has been battling economic chaos for decades, but 2025 could be the year it finally collapses. With inflation soaring past 200%, millions of citizens have seen their life savings vanish overnight. The country's debt burden is crippling, and the peso is losing value so fast that basic goods have become unaffordable for the average citizen. Experts warn that without a major economic overhaul, Argentina could face a total financial meltdown, worse than the crises of 2001 and 2018. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has already bailed out Argentina multiple times, but this time, the country might not recover. 9. Egypt. Egypt's economy is drowning in debt, and its foreign currency reserves are depleting fast. The government has borrowed billions to keep things afloat, but with a struggling tourism industry and rising food prices, many Egyptians are barely making ends meet. According to reports, the country's debt-to-GDP ratio has climbed above 90%, making it one of the most indebted economies in the region. Meanwhile, the Egyptian pound has plummeted in value, sparking fears of hyperinflation. If things don't change soon, Egypt could be heading toward its worst financial crisis in modern history. 8. Pakistan. Pakistan's economy is on life support. The country has been relying on bailouts from the IMF and friendly nations like China and Saudi Arabia, but its debt keeps growing. In 2024 alone, Pakistan had to negotiate yet another IMF loan to avoid default. Inflation is out of control, fuel prices are skyrocketing, and power outages are becoming more frequent. The Pakistani rupee has lost over 50% of its value in just a few years, making imports more expensive and crushing local businesses. Unless drastic reforms take place, Pakistan could face a total economic collapse in 2025. 7. Turkey. Turkey's economy has been spiraling due to reckless monetary policies and a crashing lira. Inflation remains in the double digits, eroding people's purchasing power and making everyday necessities more expensive. The Turkish government's heavy spending and reliance on foreign debt have left the country vulnerable. Foreign investors are losing confidence, and the Turkish lira has lost over 80% of its value since 2018. Without intervention, Turkey could be facing a financial crisis that shakes the entire region. 6. Lebanon. Lebanon's economy is in free fall. The banking sector has collapsed, public services are in shambles, and the Lebanese pound has lost over 90% of its value. Most citizens now rely on remittances from relatives abroad just to survive. Fuel shortages, power outages, and skyrocketing food prices have made daily life unbearable. Experts believe Lebanon's economy might not recover for decades. 5. Myanmar. Myanmar has been in crisis since the military coup of 2021, and its economy is paying the price. Foreign investments have dried up, businesses are shutting down, and trade has collapsed. By March 2024, Myanmar's exports had fallen by 133%, while imports dropped by 20%. The economy is crumbling, and if things don't stabilize, the country could face complete financial ruin in 2025. 4. Bangladesh. Once a rising economic powerhouse, Bangladesh is now struggling with debt, inflation, and political instability. The garment industry, which accounts for most of the country's exports, is in trouble as international buyers cancel orders due to unsafe working conditions and rising labor costs. Debt is piling up fast. By 2029, Bangladesh's total debt is expected to double, reaching a staggering $325 billion. Inflation is already at 10.1%, and the local currency, the taka, has been devalued multiple times. Without urgent reforms, Bangladesh could face a financial disaster similar to what happened in Sri Lanka. 3. Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been a textbook case of economic collapse for decades, and things are only getting worse. The country still suffers from the effects of hyperinflation, which once reached 89.76% in 2008. Even today, Inflation remains out of control, crime is rising, and unemployment is sky-high. Zimbabwe is drowning in $21 billion of public debt, and foreign investment is almost non-existent. With economic mismanagement still rampant, Zimbabwe could spiral into another financial meltdown in 2025. 2. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka defaulted on its $83 billion debt in 2022, and things haven't improved much since. The country's economy collapsed due to overborrowing, bad policies, and the impact of COVID-19. Poverty is still rising, and experts predict that over 22% of Sri Lankans will remain below the poverty line until at least 2026. With soaring debt and slow recovery, Sri Lanka's financial crisis is far from over. 1. The United States. While the US isn't going bankrupt like the other countries on this list, several states are facing massive financial problems. Rising debt, underfunded pensions, and unsustainable spending could push some states toward economic disaster. Which states are in trouble? According to financial experts, the top 10 states facing the biggest fiscal challenges in 2025 include Illinois, crippling pension debt; California, skyrocketing homelessness and a tech downturn; New York, rising deficits and a shrinking tax base; New Jersey, unfunded liabilities growing faster than revenue; Kentucky, pension debt continues to spiral; Connecticut, declining population and high taxes; Pennsylvania, budget shortfalls and pension crisis; Massachusetts, soaring costs and declining tax revenues; Louisiana, economic stagnation and state budget deficits; Hawaii, heavy reliance on tourism and rising debt. While these states aren't bankrupt yet, their financial problems could create major issues in the coming years. If the government doesn't step in, America's debt crisis could become a much bigger problem. As economies struggle and debt continues to rise, 2025 could be a year of major financial disasters. From collapsing industries to political instability, these nations are facing some of the worst economic conditions in recent history. Which country do you think is in the most danger? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more insights on the world's biggest financial crises.